Enjo, the Japanese term for controversies, literally meaning as being on fire. The mobile game Project Sekai has faced its own controversies over the years due to a mix of geopolitics and cultural indifferences. The most famous incident of all among the Western community is Blackface. Project Sekai received its first ever anime adaptation in the show Project Sekai by Scooter Films. It's a miniature series that is a few minutes long for each episode, airing from January 2022 to March 2022. Each episode highlights a very short story, often featuring a small gag. The anime received mixed reviews, scoring around 6.9 score on my anime list. Undoubtedly, the show had a lot of creative limitations due to its very short length and budget. However, the real controversy started with episode 6, Leonid Style. The episode is about the band Leonid trying out different styles and outfit. One scene shows the band members dressed up as a tribe and makeup depicting as a lion, I guess? Outrage soon exploded among the Western community, with fires blasted on Twitter and Reddit. So, what is a blackface? Portraying as a stereotypical black person, blackface is a type of makeup that is primarily utilized by non-black individuals. Blackface has a long history dating back to 1800s, mostly being employed in stage shows in the US and the UK. Early blackface performers often wore woolly wigs, gloves, as well as painting their face in dark colors to complete the transition. Though blackface gradually disappeared from the States after World War I, it is still used in Asia. A toy called Daku-chan was very popular in the early 1960s. Even now, darker stereotypical characters continues to be extensively featured in Japanese manga and anime, such as Mr. Popo from the Dragon Ball series and the Pokemon Jinx. Both have been censored on US broadcasts. Back to the show Project Sekai. As the perception on cultural races are much different for the Western and Eastern community, it does make sense for the animators to ring a green light on the show initially, which doesn't really show any bad faith, though some might see this as distasteful. Either way, the incident had a lot of media coverage outside the game. The episode was later removed with a formal apology issued from the official Twitter. This incident also brought us to the next controversy among the Western community in the event Revival My Dream. In the event, the Nene card, Shy Visitor, depicted her in yet again tribal costume, featuring an event story about jungle people, also using some negative terms like savages and barbarians. However, the story was originally based on the classical film Princess Mononoke, which is about the conflict between human and nature, a very successful blockbuster. Here you can see the great resemblance between the Project Sekai card and the main characters in the film. This again infuriated some players on Twitter, as it did indeed touch very subtly on colonialism. Either way, the English server removed the event, following the previous year's brownface allegations, as they would rather play it safe than risk another run of bad press. From my personal opinion though, Project Sekai always have some very interesting and unique story that touch on sensitive topics, especially Night Cordal, which heavily hints on mental illness. As a player who played a lot of these story-based rhythm games with boring and repetitive stories that I usually skip, it is frankly quite refreshing to see unique themes in some of these stories. But I do understand why some people might be offended on some certain topics. Every month, Project Sekai hosts a costume design contest on Twitter. A theme will be picked for the month, such as Pirate, Magic, Easter, something like that. Players can submit their own designs, and the winner would get the design added to the actual game. Examples are costumes like this. So far, 19 pairs of design have been chosen, and 23 rounds have been announced. During the 19th costume design contest, however, a rather dangerous theme is chosen, Retro. At the end of the contest, these two designs were chosen. The girl costume, Hinado Maid designed by Iori, but stirred massive controversies among Korean players. This costume featured a traditional Japanese outfit depicting Taisho romance from the Taisho era between 1910 and 1920s. During the time Korea was subject under violent Japanese rule, Koreans were conscripted to conduct forced labor, and the issues of convert women marked a very dark page in Korean history. Unsurprisingly, this is not the first time a Japanese mobile game faced massive controversies among Korean players surrounding Japanese colonial history. In the game Idolmaster Million Life, another rhythm game from the classical franchise Idolmaster, had also featured a very similar outfit back then. This shows the deep conflict and the scars left behind the imperialist days among Koreans. Senbonzakura, or 1000 Cherry Trees, is a very well-known Vocaloid song that is featured in Project Sekai and Project Eva, as well as many Japanese music games. This song has entered the Hall of Myths, and it is notable for having stayed in the Vocaloid ranking consistently for a very long time, exceeding over 20 million YouTube views. Despite its catchy and upbeat tune, the song covers the themes of Japanese westernization during the Meiji reforms, also greatly portraying the right-wing Japanese imperialism theme. The song is not available on the Korean server for the same reasons from the previous incident. Just from the original music video only, it features the rising imperial flag of Japan, as well as traditional Japanese military outfits before the Great War, which does paint a picture of Japanese nationalism. So what's the song actually about? Let's dive into the lyrics. First of all, the song started off with this. After a bold and audacious westernization revolution, this is now an open and upright anti-war nation. The first line refers to the Meiji reforms during the 18th century. At that time, the US Navy barged into the ports of Japan and basically forced to come out of isolation and to be opened up for trade, as the imperial government looked at China, who suffered from the Opium Wars and forced to cede Hong Kong to the British. They understood they must do something to keep up with the Western world. As such, the imperial government underwent their own industrialization, called the Meiji Reforms, to keep up with the Western powers. In the song, the reforms is described as high collar, as Japanese men started to wear Western bow tie and a top hat instead of a traditional Japanese kimono. However, in the second line of the lyrics, after Japan lost in World War II, it was forced to disband her army and a lot of the military restrictions were imposed upon the country. This shows a very sharp contrast between the once proud Japanese Empire, who had an army that could even defeat Western powers in the Japanese-Russian War, and the gradual transition into the modern-day democratic Japan, who can't even own its own army due to its constitution. Further down the song, for the first line, as cherry trees is one of the most iconic image and the heart of Japan. This line described the once proud Japan or Yamato nation is fading away. In the following line, neither will your voice carry, the image of a guillotine shows that in democratic Japan, any hint of right-wingism will be penalized and censored after the horrors of World War II. Basically, it means that the once glorious days of Japan will never return, yet the glorious days that were once associated with horror and terror. As such, the song is entirely removed from the Korean server. Well, I don't want the entire video to be all about the song, so I'll stop here for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'm experimenting with brand new formats and I'm not too keen on gaming videos on rhythm games because why would someone watch another person touch buttons on a black screen? Well, leave a comment on what you think, please subscribe for more content, and goodbye.